take the same retiree, the same paid-off house, the same $2,400 Social Security check, and hand them 3 different nest eggs, 1 million, 2 million, 4 million. Then watch what an ordinary Tuesday looks like at each level. When I ran the numbers, one thing surprised me. The first jump changes almost everything about daily life, and the last jump changes almost nothing. Somewhere between those balances, there is a quiet line where more money stops improving your weeks, and today we find it, with real monthly numbers at every tier. Welcome to the Retirement Lab. I'm Susan Mitchell, and my usual reminder before we touch a single number: I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not personal advice. This is a lab. We run the numbers so you can see how the machine works, and then you check everything against your own life. Here is why we're running this particular experiment. If you read the comments under any big retirement video, and I read thousands of them, you'll notice the real worry is rarely, will I run out? The real worry is quieter, is my number enough, or do I have to keep going? A few weeks ago, on one of the biggest tier comparison videos on YouTube, the top comment simply quoted the creator back to herself. Maybe you don't need to work another decade chasing a bigger number if it's not actually going to change how you live. 350 people pressed like on that one sentence. 350 people, most of them somewhere in their 50s and 60s, all wondering the same thing: is the finish line I've been grinding toward even real? That's a question you can actually test, not with vibes, with arithmetic. So let's build the experiment. We take one retiree and we hold everything about her life constant except the savings. She's 67. Her house is paid off. She claimed Social Security at her full retirement age, and her check is $2,400 a month, a solid but not unusual benefit as of 2026. Yours will be different, and you can see the real figure anytime by logging in at ssa.gov. If you're married, just add the second check to everything I'm about to say. The shape of the experiment doesn't change. The only thing we move is the balance. 1 million, 2 million, 4 million. To turn a balance into monthly income, we need a consistent ruler, and we'll use the one we tested back in episode 1, the 4% guideline. Withdraw 4% of the balance in your first year. Give yourself an inflation raise each year after. And history says a balanced portfolio very likely carries you 30 years. It is not a law of physics, it's a ruler. Today we just need the same ruler at every tier. So here is what the 3 portfolios pay, before we even talk about what the money does. $1 million at 4% is $40,000 a year, about $3,300 a month. Add her check and she lives on about $5,700 a month. 2 million pays about $6,700 a month. Add the check, about $9,100 a month. 4 million pays about $13,300 a month. Add the check, about $15,700 a month. And one benchmark to keep in your pocket, because everything today gets measured against it. Government spending surveys put the average household headed by someone 65 or older at right around $5,000 a month. Hold that number. Now let's go live each of these lives. $5,700 a month, and here is the first honest finding of the day that is already above what the average retired household in America spends. I want to say that clearly because the internet has convinced a lot of people that $1 million is a failure. It isn't. $1 million plus a normal Social Security check plus a paid-off house is a good retirement. It's just a good retirement with the seatbelt fastened. What does the seatbelt feel like? Let's walk her month. The house is fine. Property tax, insurance, utilities, upkeep, call it $1,100 a month all in. Where the house pinches is not the monthly bills. It's the big, lumpy stuff. A new roof runs somewhere around $18,000 now, which at this tier is 3 full months of income. So she keeps a repair fund and feeds it every month, and when the furnace makes a new noise in November, she feels it in her chest a little before she feels it in her wallet. Travel happens, and it's real travel, just rationed. One proper trip a year, planned in January, booked for shoulder season, economy seats, about $5,000 all in. Add a couple of driving trips to see family. That's a genuinely nice year. What she doesn't get to do is say yes twice. Healthcare runs like everyone's: Medicare Part B, a supplement, a drug plan, roughly $400 a month as of 2026. Ordinary health costs are handled. The tender spot at this tier is the thing nobody wants to name: long-term care. Assisted living runs a median of roughly $5,500 to $6,000 a month these days, and those figures move by region, so check the current surveys. A 2 or 3 year stretch of care would bend this plan hard. Her honest backstop is the house itself, the equity she could unlock if that chapter ever comes. That's not a tragedy, it's a plan. But it's a plan with one big card in it. Helping family looks like presents more than checks. Birthdays covered, a few hundred here and there when a grandkid's car dies. What she cannot safely do is write the $25,000 down payment check, because at this tier, a gift that size comes straight out of her own future care. And margin? When the market drops 30%, and at some point it will, she has to actually do something. She trims the travel year, skips the inflation raise, follows the guardrail rule we built in episode 6. The plan holds. But it holds because she works the plan, not because the plan has slack in it. That's $1 million. Comfortable, above average, and awake at the wheel. Now watch what happens when we double the balance. $9,100 a month. On paper, that's just a bigger number. In a lived month, this is the largest single change in the whole experiment, and I want to show you exactly where it lands. Travel goes from 1 yes a year to 2 or 3. The budget line moves from $5,000 to $12,000 or $15,000 without strain. She takes the fall trip to Italy and still says yes when her daughter proposes a family beach week, and this time she quietly picks up the house rental for everyone. Premium economy on the long flight because her knees cast a vote now. None of this requires a family meeting with a spreadsheet. Housing stops being a fixed fact and becomes a choice. If the grandkids are 4 states away, she can move near them without the math saying no. Or keep the house and rent a place somewhere warm for a month every winter, $3,000 for the month, and it's a line item, not a decision. Here's the change that matters most, and it's invisible from the outside. At $2 million, the long-term care question has an answer that lives in her own accounts. A typical 2 to 3 year stretch of care costs somewhere around $200,000 at today's medians. At Tier 1, that number threatened the whole structure. At Tier 2, it's absorbable, painful, but absorbable, without selling the house and without wrecking a surviving spouse's plan. There's a specific 3 a.m. worry that simply retires at this tier. I don't know how to put a price on that, except apparently I do. It's the $2 million. Family help becomes real and steady. $500 a month flowing into the grandkids' college accounts. 1 down payment assist for 1 kid, done once, planned for, safe. And margin stops being a discipline and starts being a cushion. The same 30% market drop that had our Tier 1 retiree working her guardrail rule, here it means she shades the travel line and skips a raise. Daily life doesn't notice. So write this down as the second finding of the day. The jump from $1 million to $2 million converts almost entirely into lived life. More trips, more yes, more help, and the biggest fear in retirement answered from cash. Dollar for dollar, this is the best money in the entire experiment. Double it again. $15,700 a month. By the ruler, she now has $6,600 more per month than Tier 2, so her life should change about as much as it did last time, right? Let's look honestly at what the new money buys. The lake cottage is genuinely on the table now. A modest second place, all-in costs maybe $30,000 a year, with taxes and upkeep, and the plan absorbs it without wobbling. Business class over the ocean, which can run $5,000 more per seat, stops being an anniversary splurge and becomes how she flies. Long-term care goes from answered to fully answered. Even the scenario nobody says out loud, a long, slow decade of care, is covered from cash with an estate left over. And the giving changes character. At this tier, she isn't helping with a down payment. She can quietly retire a kid's student loan, fund every 529 to the brim, give every year, and start having actual estate conversations. That's real. I'm not going to pretend it's nothing. But now let me tell you what did not change, because this is the heart of the episode. Her Medicare card is the same card. At her income, the government does add a surcharge to her premiums, a few hundred a month more, and the waiting room is the same waiting room. Her year still has 12 months, her body still has the same knees, and you can only be in one place at a time, which means the second home mostly means the first home sits empty. Her coffee on the porch costs what it always cost. Her Tuesday, and I mean this precisely, looks almost identical to the $2 million Tuesday. The seats on the plane got wider. The destinations didn't change. Years ago, I worked for a man who had, I learned much later, a little over $4 million. He drove a 9-year-old pickup and got his hair cut at the same $11 barbershop as everyone else in town. I once asked him, in the roundabout way you ask these things, what the money actually did. He thought about it longer than I expected and said, I never look at the price on the right side of a menu, and I never worry in a doctor's office. That was the whole list. The money had stopped buying things years before. What it bought was the absence of a certain feeling. And the research backs him up. When people study what retirees with several million actually spend, the consistent finding is that most of them live on a fraction of what their portfolio could support, many barely touching more than the withdrawals the government eventually requires. The fourth million, for most of the people who have one, compounds quietly in an account they check twice a year. It's not income, it's a scoreboard. So let's name what we just watched, because it followed a clean mathematical shape. Every million added the same $3,300 a month. The ruler never changed. What changed is where each addition landed. The first million landed on necessity. It built the floor, covered the base, kept the house safe. The second million landed on life, trips, yeses, family help, and the care question answered. The third and fourth landed mostly on paper, wider seats, bigger buffers, larger numbers in accounts that rarely get opened. Same dollars in, less and less life out. Economists have a dusty name for this, diminishing marginal utility, but you don't need the term, you watched it happen. So where's the line? Run our retiree against the benchmark. The average retired household lives on about $5,000 a month. The comfortable, generous version of that same life, the one with real travel and real help for the kids, runs maybe 7 or 8. Her $2 million income of $9,100 covers that with margin. So for this retiree, and for a life shaped like most of the lives watching this channel, the number where more money stops changing your days sits right around $2 million. If you want the long-term care question closed completely from cash, with no reliance on the house, call it 2.5. Past that point, more money is still worth something. It just stops buying weeks and starts buying zeros. Now, before anyone quotes me a different life, let me be exact about what that number is and isn't. The line is not a universal constant. It's a function of what your life costs. If your retirement includes a sailboat and 3 months a year in Europe, your months cost more and your line sits higher. The plateau doesn't disappear for you, it just moves. Which means the useful question was never, what's the magic number? It was, where is MY line? Here's how to find it. And this is the one piece of homework today. Take what your month actually costs, the real number from your real statements. Subtract your Social Security. Multiply what's left by 300. That's the 4% ruler run backwards, and it lands on your version of the 2 million. Then add a cushion for care, a couple $100,000 if you want it answered from cash. Whatever that total is, that's your line. Not Aaron's, not mine, not the scary number from a bank commercial. Yours. I promised you both sides, so here is the honest case for the bigger number, because it exists. More money buys an earlier date. If your line is 2 million and you have it at 55 instead of 67, you just bought 12 years, and years are the one thing this whole channel is secretly about. More money buys certainty for the cautious. Some people sleep better at 3 times their line, and sleep counts. It buys care without compromise, the private room, the extra help at home. And past your own needs entirely, it buys generosity, the college funds, the causes, the kind of giving that becomes its own reason. Nobody here is being scolded for saving. If building the bigger number costs you little and the work still feels good, build it. The problem was never having more than your line. The problem is not knowing where the line is and paying for the overshoot with the one currency that doesn't compound. Which brings me to Bill. Bill lives 4 doors down from me, a retired engineer, one of those men who can fix anything with a socket set and patience. At 62, he had a little over $2 million, and his life, when Marie and I once actually penciled it out at their kitchen table, cost about $7,500 a month. He was past his line and he half knew it. But the market was good, the salary was good, and the number was so close to 3 that it seemed silly to stop. Then 3.5 felt tidier than 3. He retired at 68 with about $3.5 million, and the money is lovely. It's also, by his own math, money he will never spend. What he talks about instead, on his porch, in that flat engineer's voice that makes it worse somehow, is that Marie's hiking years happened while he was working. The Dolomites trip they'd planned for decades finally happened last fall. They took the gondola. Marie's knee made the trails a memory of a plan instead of a memory. I want to be careful with this story because Bill is not a tragedy. He's healthy, he's cheerful, they travel, and the extra million means his kids will inherit something substantial, which he genuinely values. But when I asked him the menu question, the one I asked my old boss, he didn't talk about menus. He said, "The last 6 years changed my statement. They didn't change my life." And then he said the thing I made this episode for. Nobody ever told me there was a number where I could have stopped doing the math. Here's what I've come to believe after running this lab. The finish line keeps moving for exactly one reason. Nobody draws their own. In the absence of your number, every number in your feed becomes your number. The 4 million headline, the neighbor's rumor, the commenter with 2.5. You end up chasing a line that belongs to somebody else's life, and a line like that recedes forever because it was never anchored to anything you can actually spend. The 350 people who loved that comment weren't celebrating laziness. They were hearing, maybe for the first time, that the treadmill has an off switch, and the off switch is a number you can calculate on one sheet of paper. Below your line, more money is life, trips, safety, help, sleep. That money is worth working for. Above your line, more money is mostly a scoreboard, and the years spent running it up are gone in a way dollars never are. The math in this episode took 20 minutes. Most people never run it, and so they work toward more, and more has no address. So, your homework, one sheet of paper. What your month really costs, minus your check, times 300 plus a care cushion. That's your line. Write it down and put it somewhere you'll see it, because that number quietly answers the biggest question you're carrying. Not, am I behind, but how far is my finish line? The real one, mine. And I genuinely love to know, did your line surprise you? Was it closer than the number you've been carrying around, or further? Tell me in the comments. No balance is required, just closer or further. Those answers shape what we run next in the lab. If this experiment helped, subscribing truly does help us build the next one, and there's more coming in this series. The median retiree's real budget is already on the board. All figures today are as of 2026. They move every year, so verify the current ones at ssa.gov and irs.gov. And this is education, not advice. Run your own numbers with your own professional before you move real money. I'm Susan Mitchell. Run your numbers. Know you're on track. I'll see you in the next one.